Good morning, and welcome to the July 18th Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg. My name is John Motter. I'm a member of this church and also on its worship committee. A UU congregation is a place for all souls, all ages, genders, loves, colors, abilities, struggles, education, beliefs, questions, and hopes. Our congregations are devoted to promoting spiritual growth and caring community, learning from all peoples and from our own life experiences. Today is World Listening Day, which is sponsored by the World Listening Project. It's a time to pause and listen to the sounds of nature and society to learn more about our environment. Sometime today, if you get a chance, sit quietly, open your ears, and really focus your attention on the sounds around you. It's also Nelson Mandela International Day. Madiba believed that everyone had the ability and responsibility to change the world for the better. Today is your chance to do just one thing that would inspire positive change. A couple of things to note about viewing our service on YouTube. Closed captioning is available. On most devices and operating systems, you'll find the CC icon on the lower right portion of your screen. If you are watching the premiere live, then you can use the chat feature in the window next to the video. If you are viewing it at a later time, you can still read the chat transcript by clicking on the Show Chat Replay button to the right of the video. Today's service focuses on transition. Our lives seem to be a string of transitions. Our church is in a state of transition as we welcome Pastor Ben, plan our official reopening amidst the pandemic, and as we begin the necessary work addressing how we envision the church of our future. I hope that all of you watching will find something that helps you grow spiritually, both individually and as a member of the greater community. Your presence is needed and wanted as we work towards building a blessed community. Finally, I'd like to thank John and James for the music and video editing, Rebecca Wilson, Bill Motter, and Ruth Bentley for the readings and being my sounding board as I was planning today's service. And now, our chalice lighting and covenant with Rebecca and my mom, Ruth.
I'm Ruth Bentley.
I'm Rebecca Wilson. We're members of this church. We're happy that you're with us this morning. The flaming chalice is a symbol of hope, the sacred, the quest for truth, the warmth of community, the light of reason, and more. We say our covenant along with the chalice lighting to create a reverent space for reflection, prayer or meditation, and singing. Please join us in reciting the covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now John with the invocation.
Our invocation, entitled Transfiguring Love, was written by James Chip Roosh, who's the senior minister at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Grand Traverse in Traverse City, Michigan. Deeper than DNA, more fundamental than molecules or quarks at our living core, we are wholeness and transfiguring love. We often forget that power, becoming lonely or resentful, comparing ourselves to others, acting out of our fears rather than our living our glory. Occasionally, we rouse from our trance to remember our wholeness. For a time, we embody unsentimental love. We make efforts to wake others and to remain fully present ourselves. Our lives and our time here together are made sacred by our striving for the next 30 minutes, and possibly for the rest of our lives. May we be more aware of the spirit of life evolving through and among us. So may we be. We'll now sing our first hymn, followed by A Time for All Ages with Ruth Bentley.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good, to make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life.
This story was originally told by Reverend Molly Housh Gordon, who is a lifelong Unitarian Universalist from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Who near here knows the book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Can one of the kids in the room tell me how Lucy Pevensie discovers Narnia? Lucy looks for the perfect place to hide and opens the door to a big wardrobe that's like a closet. She goes through the door and into the back of the wardrobe, and suddenly she's in a whole other world, a magical world with witches and fauns and talking beavers. Wouldn't it be cool if there were a magical world beyond every door? When Lucy opened the door to Narnia, it didn't look like anything special. It was just a boring door to a wardrobe full of clothes and coats. But across its threshold, that's where you go over in through the door, was magic. Lucy already had a foot in Narnia before she quite realized what was happening. Many of the thresholds in our own lives are like this. We don't know that we're crossing into another world until we're already halfway there. The door of a church takes us down a pathway of growth we might never have expected. The door of the doctor's office suddenly opens out into a life with a good or maybe a hard diagnosis. A restaurant door opens onto a first date, and it echoes forward into the relationship of a lifetime. A beloved person's door closes behind you and sends you out into the world heartbroken. The door to a library or a gym or even a dance studio introduces you to a life's passion you might not have otherwise discovered. We cross these thresholds every day of our lives, for good and for bad, in joy, in sorrow, in bittersweet truth. Truly, even our own front door is a great threshold, no matter how familiar the worlds within and without may be. Given our lives' reality of constant change, every day we open the same old door again, only to step out into a world that is new since the day before. In this way, there is a new world behind every door, awaiting our discovery, if we will only encounter it as such.
Please be sure to check out the UU St. Pete Weekly for announcements of the many things happening at the church. One announcement to highlight is the search for a person to be the clerk for the Board of Trustees. It requires you to attend the monthly board meetings to take the minutes. It really is a great way to learn more about the workings of the church and to meet church members. Fortunately, the former clerk, Chris Peterson, developed some great templates and has agreed to help the new clerk acclimate to the duties. If you're interested, you can contact me at jpmotter@gmail.com or Sharon Wood, our office administrator. The information would be in the weekly. It's also time for joys and concerns. None were submitted, but you can feel free to type any joys or concerns into the comments section on YouTube chat. Or if you are viewing the premiere from the church, you can come forward and share it with the others here.
There is no roadmap for these times, but if you want to ease your mind, you gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. There is no roadmap for these days, but if you want to find some grace, you gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. I know your heart is crying, please, but if you want to find some peace, you gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. You look into the stars above, but you got all you need, and that is love. Look inside. You gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. Come on and look inside. You gotta look inside. Come on and look inside.
Our first reading is from Nelson Mandela. He spoke these words on April 16, 1999, while accepting the Freedom of Metropolitan Durban Award. Many people have been skeptical of our capacity to realize the ideal of a rainbow nation. It is true that South Africa was often brought to the brink of destruction because of differences. But let us reaffirm this one thing here today. It is not our diversity which divides us. It is not our ethnicity or religion or culture that divides us. Since we have achieved our freedom, there can only be one division amongst us, between those who cherish democracy and those who do not. As freedom-loving people, we want to see our country prosper and provide basic services to all. For our freedom can never be complete or democracy stable unless the basic needs of our people are met. We have seen the stability that development brings, and in turn we know that peace is the most powerful weapon that any community or nation can have for development. As we rebuild our country, we should remain vigilant against the enemies of development and democracy, even if they come from within our own ranks. Violence will not bring us closer to our objectives. All of us should ask ourselves the question, have I done everything in my power to bring about lasting peace and prosperity in my city and my country? And now, John and James with the anthem.
Here's a wonderful song by a great songwriter named Laura Love. It's been a mean, cruel season. It's been crazy, crazy hard. And for no good reason, my universe has come apart. I've been so uneasy, and I'm trying not to burn, 'cause I know that it's kindness that we're all here to learn. And I still believe in kindness, and I still believe in love. I know the power of a gentle touch when the going gets rough. I will not be bitter, I will not be small, 'cause if I choose to harden my heart, I'm nothing at all. Some days I don't get up, go out of my room. I'm so broken-hearted, I don't even know how to put my clothes together, to put one shoe on, to lace up those strings and open the door and carry on. But I still believe in kindness, and I still believe in love. I know the power of a gentle touch when the going gets rough. I will not be bitter, I will not be small, 'cause if I choose to harden my heart, I'm nothing at all. I still believe in kindness, and I still believe in love. 'Cause if I choose to harden my heart, I'm nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Our second reading is from the book Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. We in the developed world are like homeowners who inherited a house on a piece of land that is beautiful on the outside, but whose soil is unstable loam and rock, heaving and contracting over generations, cracks patched, but the deeper ruptures waved away for decades, centuries even. Many people may rightly say, I had nothing to do with how this all started. I have nothing to do with the sins of the past. My ancestors never attacked indigenous people, never owned slaves. And yes, not one of us was here when this house was built. Our immediate ancestors may have had nothing to do with it, but here we are, the current occupants of a property with stress cracks and bowed walls and fissures built into the foundation. We are the heirs to whatever is right or wrong with it. We did not erect the uneven pillars or joists, but they are ours to deal with now. And any further deterioration is, in fact, on our hands. Like other old houses, America has an unseen skeleton, a caste system that is as central to its operation as are the studs and joists that we cannot see in the physical buildings we called home. Caste is the infrastructure of our divisions. It is the architecture of human hierarchy, the subconscious code of instructions for maintaining, in our case, a 400-year-old social order. Looking at caste is like holding the country's X-ray up to the light. And now John, with his reflection on transitions.
Our worship committee meets once a month to discuss the services and decide on themes and such. At the time I agreed to lead this week's service, we only knew that Pastor Jack would be gone and that you all would be entering an indefinite period of worship committee-led services. We had no idea that we'd be so fortunate as to have Reverend Ben coming to lead the congregation so soon. So, as a committee, we decided that we should do a service revolving around the theme of transition. I internally groaned at the thought, but put a smile on my face and thought, okay, I'll figure out how to make it work. Quite frankly, I was just kind of tired of talking about transition. But jump forward a month, and I realized that today was just around the corner. And today really meant this past Thursday at noon was just around the corner. That's when we try to have all the recordings done and forwarded to James so that he can do his amazing editing of the videos. With this deadline in front of me, a light bulb finally went off for me. Life really is just one long period of transition. Even with the best of planning, we can never fully anticipate the barriers we may encounter or the unexpected boosts that come our way. The best way for me to discuss my view on transitions is to talk about the fact that I'll be turning 60 at the end of September. Yep, I'll be entering my golden years of blissful living with not a care in the world. Isn't that the picture that is often painted? You'll be retiring soon and have time to do all those things on your bucket list. You've worked hard all your life and you deserve this moment. You've earned it. The reality is that life is not a fairy tale, and that dream may not be anywhere close to reality. My therapist back in Portland once told me that the year or so before we enter a new decade is a time that can be unsettling. It's a time that we often review our life to determine if we are where we thought we would be. Are we excelling, or are we way off track? As I look back over my last 60 years, I see that I couldn't have begun to imagine all that has happened. For instance, those carefree high school days were anything but carefree. They were a struggle. Most of you don't know this, but I've lived in St. Pete before. During my senior year of high school, I ran away to St. Pete Beach, but I went back to Ohio and tried to deal with the struggles that our family was enduring. I tried to commit suicide and thankfully was unsuccessful. I can say that those years were horrible, and yet now I return to my hometown every 5 years and reunite with my classmates, many of whom added to some of those struggles. Time may not heal all wounds, but it does give you the ability to see a new perspective. Some of those classmates that added to my struggle were struggling themselves. We were all just trying to survive what we thought were supposed to be a carefree time. As I was turning 30, I just knew that life was never perfect. I just knew that life was near perfect. I had a wonderful partner. I just graduated summa cum laude from Howard University and was working in the tax division of Arthur Andersen. What could be better? Yes, there were bumps in the road. I was losing friends to HIV. My relationship wasn't always joyful, but we had dear friends, 2 dogs, 2 cats, a beautiful home. When things are going near perfect, it's easy to forget that the garden still needs to be tended, that weeds still grow and can take control, and that's exactly what happened. I celebrated my 40th birthday in really a horrible place, which I could only blame myself for, and was wondering how it could ever get better. I was basically feeling sorry for myself. But 2 weeks before my birthday, 9/11 happened. Something so devastating was the catalyst I needed to get it together. It made me realize that I had to figure out how to make all these negative things work for the better. And so slowly but surely, I sifted through the rubble that was my life and rebuilt myself. It was not always easy, but I found that people were there for me. When I was struggling, but at least trying, they were eager to lend a helping hand. Life is always full of surprises, and I learned that if I pushed forward and tried to do the right thing, then at a minimum, I kept my head above the water. And quite frankly, I was quite often way above the minimum and way on top of the water. When I look at these last 20 years, I can focus so many positive things. Living and volunteering in Kenya, helping my stepfather as he was dying, providing over 7,000 volunteer hours to an HIV organization, sharing my life with my mom and getting to know her as a really neat person, and finding community within our congregation. There will always be negatives that I have to handle. Negatives that deliver uncertainty and doubt. But if I don't shy away from them, then I can handle them and put them in perspective. This year, I'm doing what I've been doing for the last 20 years. I'm taking the time to review what is working well in my life, what is not working, what new things I want to try, what needs more attention or less attention. I have this picture behind me in my entryway, a boy reflecting upon himself in the water, and that reminds me every day that I need to take the time to work on myself. I worry about the level of discord in our country. I wonder if our country will survive the racial hatred, the dismantling of voter rights, and the assault on women's ability to make decisions for themselves. That's a heavy burden, and one that is beyond my ability to solve. I can't brace the cracks in our 400-year foundation. I can't change the votes of Republicans across the country that are enacting voter suppression laws at the state level. So really, what can I do? I can support our congregation by co-facilitating a discussion of books and readings addressing both sides of the racial divide within the UUA. I can assemble voter education packets for the upcoming election. I can write and call the offices of my senators and representatives, even if I know that they will vote differently from how I think they should. I can read about these issues as presented by those both for and against the issue. I can do all these things because change is always going to be present whether I want it to be or not. I have learned that for me to get to the other side of that change, I must not hide from it, but do my best to embrace it. So I ask you, what can you do?
To keep our congregation thriving, let's remember our connections to one another and not forget our offerings to support the means to those connections. As we listen to our brief offering music, please click on the I in the upper right-hand corner of your screen to make a contribution. You can also donate through the Gift Plus app via our webpage under the Giving tab, or by sending a check to the church office. Thank you. And now, as our service ends with a breath, we pass the flame of our chalice lamp to each other as we say together, we extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world.
Our slightly adapted benediction comes from Reverend Leah Derlin Jones, who is serving as Minister of Faith Development at the UU congregation in Charlottesville, Virginia. For those who came before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love. As we go forth from this time and place, let us be inspired by their courage, their wisdom, and their dreams. Let us honor them by doing the work of living boldly, loving mightily, and creating peace on earth. Blessed be. Now I want to thank you everyone for coming together this morning. Please stay safe and well through the week. We hope you can join us right after the service for Zoom coffee hour. The meeting information will be on your screen shortly. And now some final music.